After a whole year of silence, Unending Dawn has come out with a 7-minute long PV that shows a lot of new stuff, from the story and world building to a whole 6 minutes of combat and boss fights. And TapTap had access to an exclusive preview of the game, so let's check it out and go over all the hidden details in the new PV. Let's get into it. So let's start with the combat. The PV opens with a short intro that sees the protagonist in church being baptized by a bishop. We can hear her inner monologue, but at the moment of baptism, the scene suddenly changes and a group of monsters jumps in and the bishop turns into an evil monster himself. So we can guess the setting will be Western fantasy world, and the main conflict will be something along the lines of light versus darkness. While none of this is particularly surprising so far, and we kind of got it from the first PV already, what's really crazy about this video is what happens next. A whole 6 minutes of combat showcase. We already had a glimpse of combat in the first PV, but now the visuals have been visibly upgraded. And some of the sword attacks even bring vibrations while swinging midair. The combat looks incredibly smooth, and it will definitely require some level of skills. Also, the UI looks so much better compared to the first PV. The symbol above the health bar resembles Sekiro's posture slots. On the right side of the UI, we can see dodging, CD-based skills, some special energy slots that you build up through battle and big attacks. When it comes to enemy patterns, they look very varied, and so do the combos, as it's clear that most of the attacks require the player to perform a series of blocks. And it's also possible to dodge and jump to avoid an enemy's attacks. In the second part of the clip, we can see a series of enemies, this knight with a flaming sword, an electricity-based enemy, and one with a huge shield charging forward. What's next in the trailer is a variety of ways you can use to kill these enemies, like stabbing them from a platform with a pitchfork. These two very cool executions. The overall idea of the game's combat system is that blocking and smashing are the main forms of interaction. And it will be important to identify enemies' patterns and movements to be able to time special abilities and ultimate attacks to execute your enemy brutally. But like many other Souls-like games, there is much more to it than just combat. The PV shows a lot of architectural features and mechanisms familiar to anyone familiar with the genre, like walking up the stairs just to be stabbed by a spear, or being lured by something in the background that ends up being just a trap, and facing enemies jumping on you from every corner. The interactions with the environment are also very rich. And during our exclusive playtest, we saw that some bookshelves can be destroyed and reveal a hidden door. Beams and chandeliers can also be hidden pathways or trigger unknown conditions. The boss fight really is the part where the Unending Dawn team flex their muscles. The sense of oppression they manage to create with these enemies is amazing. In the first part of the combat, the boss's attacks are wide open. He will jump up and then down to the ground, showing a variety of throws and smashes. And also, very cool by the way, he summons a flock of crows to launch a long-range attack. The second stage of this boss fight is even crazier. The boss that was some sort of humanoid at first completely morphs into a monster and grows a third hand that wields a giant axe at you. Yep. Also, compared to the first stage of the boss fight, there's a lot of new moves to learn. Unfortunately for being an open-world game, the PV didn't show much of the world exploration, but we hope more of that will be released in the future. All in all, this game will be a very unique combo of anime, Souls-like, and open world, with a very distinct art style and high-quality combat, with great sword fights and boss battles. However, bringing Souls-like combat to mobile devices comes with some challenges, and one of them is setting a reasonable threshold for players to be challenged without being discouraged. We will see how Unending Dawn balances all of this, so stay tuned for more updates on this upcoming game.